Great, thanks. Lucas, Greece. We all know Greece, but we don't know Greek venture capital. So you have an amazing platform.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much. It's an honor for me to be here with all these esteemed co-participants. And actually, what Gadi said makes me feel better for the way we're approaching certain things, because Greece obviously entered into a deep depression back in 2008-9 started, but that was the good years to go and start trying to build some things on the venture capital. 2010 onwards obviously made the world completely different. But we looked at the same way. We sat down and we said from scratch, unfortunately we were late by 20 years or so, unfortunately, to build something decent. We started the wrong way because we started from buyout without having shaped the markets to have the companies to buy out. And we wanted to go back and start from scratch and go back and start the ecosystem and building it from the very early stage and look at the competitive advantage of Greece. And competitive advantage of Greece is obviously it's human capital. Very high-end university degrees in certain areas that they touch on technology, life sciences, less deep on biotech, and we worked the same way. Actually, from our part, we had a hard part because it was part of a big banking group. So we started working, collaboration we spoke about earlier, with small groups that they knew the community very well. So we created the angel network. We start working with companies, we invested into companies. We built our own incubator, the first business incubator that also gave equity participation in groups. We had 3 groups that they have since parted and are now working on their own. And we're working on creating the R&D hub. Greece has a benefit of becoming a regional R&D hub, which can touch in cooperation with technology centers from this region, and that's one of the areas we're focusing on, and exchange talent. And we're trying to build our own business models as well. So not only get Greek companies that we can make global, do the reverse, bring them in, have their R&D groups in Greece, and also invest in teams. This early stage, and I'm speaking of one of our 3 funds, we're a small group, we're a 100 million group. We have 3 funds, technology, energy, niche segments like pharmaceutical compounding and food and beverage are the areas that we're focusing. ICT, a small 15 million fund that can invest up to 750,000 in investment in cooperation with Jeremy VC program, which is from European Union cooperation with money of the Greek government as well. Unearth these companies, but also we invest in teams. So we find teams, we bring them in, even if their business model is not the right model, and we're working together with people from all over the world because of our prior life, and advise them. We marry advisors to the specific companies, and we're working them through. We merge them as well, and try to find the synergies. It's a tough thing. It's creating ecosystem in this environment. It's very hard. But it seems like it starts working out. It will take time.
And talk to us about public sector participation or programs that help jumpstart this ecosystem.
Sure. And obviously, one thing I didn't mention, the specific group I'm representing obviously very much touches on the Israeli model. We're very IP protection focused. We're unearthing companies with IP potential. We are pushing with Yosma as well's help, we need to say, through the Hellenic VC Association and discussions with the government to try to bring the model of Israel, of putting money into the sector and helping the professional managers that are being created as we speak to move this forward. Initially, we had a program which started sometime in the early 2000s, 2002, I think. There was a fund of funds out of initially of the European money, but it ended up going through the Greek government. Created 11 funds in growth, development, capital stage. Varying levels of success. We got the last fund, but the last fund that we got 3.5, 4 years ago has invested already in 10 companies, 3 second rounds total. We have done in 4 years 30 plus investments. So it's working out. Some of the groups have not worked out as we would have expected, but these are the teething problems that we're trying to work through. So there are programs. This was a participation 50-50, money of the government and private money. And the Jeremy program of the European Union on the VC side is a cooperation of 70-30, which is a good thing. 70% has been put by the managed by the European Investment Fund from Greek government money. This program exists in other countries as well in the European Union. And we're moving to the next level where we've created now professional managers. We are trying to bring down a little bit the involvement of the state in the decision making so that it works with market standards as it should be, because we've proven that we can have some decent professional managers.
Interesting. We look forward to working together. We can't sell you the benefit of our weather because you have just as good a weather, so we'll have to find something else. But we look forward to that. Can you tell us how big is the venture industry today?
The venture industry is maybe a billion, a little bit less than that. But you will find that there will be a lot of money that will come in. And there is Horizon 2020 is one of the programs that hopefully will help this process. And you can help us because we're not looking only in Greece, we're looking also on regional cooperation, not only with technology centers, but also with investments. The 8 investments out of the 30 plus that we did in early stage, idea to formation, we had a Russian, we had a Bulgarian and a UK. We exited from a Bulgarian deal recently. In this time, we made 1.5 times our money. We recently sold a company in 11 months from when we invested. It was a great thing. Best practice from the biggest company in the world in the specific sector, Fagron, in pharmaceutical compounding. So there are efforts of making it more of a regional effort rather than just focusing in Greece.
By the way, to bracket in terms of sizing, when we look at the Israeli landscape, and my friends will correct me if I'm wrong, total investments here are over $2 billion. Last year was about $2.3 billion in venture money. The interesting part is exits. Exits last year were about 6.5 billion, so almost 3 times the amount invested. Obviously, these relates to 2 different times, but if we can maintain that kind of a multiple, then we can have a very, very healthy industry. Pekka, you run something very interesting on innovation. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, as I stated already, in my view, inventions are an absolutely mandatory part of the innovation chain. I think that we typically underestimate the importance of inventions and inventing. Somehow, in many other fields, we understand that in sports, for example, you need to practice. And in arts, music, whatever, you need to practice. Somehow, in innovation, you don't need to practice. Nobody needs to practice inventing or innovating as such. And I think that that slows us tremendously. For Europe particularly to survive in the first place, we desperately need a much more effective innovation system. And we should start viewing these professions as real professions. I mean, to be an innovator or inventor is a profession that where you need practice, you need coaching, you need help in perfecting the skills. And I think that to start understanding that the innovation system is a continuum where you start right from the bottom and then there are well-specified steps on the way, this would help Europe progress much faster in innovation. Oh, the Foundation for Finnish Inventions indeed screens about 5,000 inventions a year. We have regional teams, 17 teams in Finland, that do the first screening on these 5,000. Usually about 1,000 of those go forward, and then about 300 physically come to the foundation and the team of 20 people there. And out of those, maybe 100, 150 turn out to be innovations, turn out to be inventions that find a practical purpose. And the challenge is twofold. Number one, we try to help the inventors, coach them, help them find if the invention is actually useful for an innovation in the longer runs. And the second part is the funding. Inventions are far too early for VCs. VCs want to have a business model and hopefully customers and revenue. Inventions need some early stage funding, and in the foundation we typically can fund, I guess the typical funding would be between 20 to 40K euros. You can go up to 100K, maybe 200K in some cases. But obviously this is not venture capital type money. This is, the return is not similar there. But it's equally crucial to have this money available. We often say that this is the role for angels. Angels typically are people who made money. They are wealthy, but they don't necessarily have any expertise in inventions or innovations. And therefore, angels don't fulfill the role, and we find that that needs to have a much more professional organization.
Great, thanks. Yahal, moving over to you. First of all, it would be interesting to get your opinion whether indeed innovation can be practiced and whether you have sort of results based on practicing. Your fund has had 2 great exits in the past year, maybe more. Waze is probably the best known of those. And one of the things we wanted to ask you is the investment in ICT, which is what most of us are doing, is coming down in cost. I mean, everything is becoming cheaper, except labor, I guess. But technology is becoming cheaper, the access to computing power, to telecommunications, so one would assume that it takes less money to build a company today. Is that true? How does it affect the profile of your investments? Share with us some of your expertise and tell us what is the next ways.
Okay, a few comments. So first, in terms of focus on innovation, and clearly innovation is critical, but I think our expertise is more on identifying innovation and building companies. So I think there's a lot of innovation going on, but the real challenge is how do you make something major out of it, and how do you make it an economic success? And I would say this is where we focus on, and this is our expertise. We focus on identifying disruptive technologies and creating a new category, but even more so, and what is even more important is to lead that new category and charge out. And Waze is one of those examples. And I think the challenge here, at least for the Israeli industry, is identifying those new categories. And as I said, the real thing is to create category leaders and large companies. You started with a question as to change, and clearly the question that you addressed to me regarding some movement in financing need for for technology companies is clearly one of the major market changes that we have been experiencing for the past, I would say, since 2000, clearly 2008, so already 6 or 7 years. Just a few indications, just to ratify what you were saying earlier. Just in our portfolio, and we don't have a huge portfolio, but 10% of our companies already, we've invested anywhere between $300,000 and $400,000, and those companies turned profitable, and one of them very, very profitable. So
hang on, you mean that on $300,000 to $400,000 of investment, these companies can also already reach break-even or better?
More than break-even. And this is a market change that we as investors clearly have to take note of it. I'll mention in a moment the reasons for that. And but clearly it's a major tectonic shift in our activity. So we see here in the crowd some major angel investors that I recognize that are creating huge companies. What I call, it's a process of the democratization of the of investment. So it enables now almost anyone to come in and share in with this growth of early stage investments that was really prohibited until a few years ago. So to get to profitability or even to get to validity, it took $3 to $5 million, not too long ago. So it's very important. And what are the reasons for that? And the reasons for that are technology related on one hand. One is open source has a lot to do with it in terms of and all the tools that developers are using. Cloud, hosting is just come down by 99% in the past 10 years, and I think the most significant one is reaching out to customers. So the reaching out to customers, before you had to have those well-suited salesmen that are very expensive, and Israeli companies didn't have that talent and reach to get to the best ones. Now, you know, with over the top, you can reach to the end customers, and we've managed to capitalize on that with Waze in a very big way. And I think this is a major change for Israeli companies. So I think that before we were prohibited from addressing the consumer market, and which is the largest market with the highest potential. And I think you'll see numerous Israeli companies addressing the consumer market.
Great, thanks. We'll probably follow up on this trend of how to reach the end consumer, but the two of you mentioned the whole issue of democratization, being able to work with angels. I'd like to make a break in the panel. Iggy, where are you? Ah, there you are. We have with us a very prominent Israeli angel, Iggy Levy. And are you willing to share with us in a few words, you know, how you go about becoming a super angel? And contrary to what's been said, is it true that you just give money, or do you also provide additional value to these companies?